Again, thank everybody for being here. One of the teachers had approached me with some of the kids wanting to know what special things they might be able to do here today. And they came up with wanting to present the people down here and others with a little bit of a letter, a little token of gratitude. And we really didn't know quite how we should do this. And I thought we could just start off with it. And so if we could have those students go ahead and come this way. Not all at once. It's all right. Come on down. I believe they have some letters that they have written, and they would like to present them here to you. That was very nice and very appreciative, and part of, and it's not even planned, but part of what you're going to hear a little bit today is really what is it that you can do for veterans. So that kind of went in there, fairly nice. It just means we're all kind of always thinking, on the same areas of how can we serve those that serve us. I would like to introduce to you your guest speaker for the day. He is the commander of the local VFW. I think the number is 6281. I don't want to get that wrong. He is also a Marine. He is the grandfather of several of our students. I see one sitting right there. One of my old favorite students helped start a program here today that we call Triple H's. If you want to know who started it, there she is. I am very pleased to introduce the VFW commander, Hornet.
so please raise your hands. My name is Owen L. Lucky Jr. I was born on January the 1st, 1945. I will be 73 years old on January the 1st. My father was in the Battle of the Bulge about the time that I was born, and it was nearly 2 months before he realized he had a child at home. That's a start. I'm an American. Every man, woman sitting here behind me, they are all patriots. Do you understand me? They are all veterans. They have all served their country, and in so doing, they have served you. I want each of you to look around at the person sitting on your left and to your right. Please do that, that's important. If you are to become a warrior, and this country is a warrior state, never let it escape you, then while God and country is important to you, it is the man or woman on your left and the man or woman on your right who in that time of crisis, when you're asking God for help, that you will depend on most. Always remember that. Marines understand it better than anyone. We all are here to serve you. Let me now go into one other thing. I want you to again look around, and then I want to ask you all to consider this. How many of you in here, and this is a question, you don't have to raise your hands, consider yourself a loyal American? How many of you consider yourself a patriot? How many of you love your country? And how many of you, whether a citizen of this country or a visitor, love it? All of those of you who agree that they love their country, as I have just said, recited, please stand. Where's the president? Where's Madam Principal? Step out. I present you with a school of patriots. We honor you, and I thank you for your patriotism. Please be seated. Now, what can you do for us as veterans? Every time you, or at least most of you, see a veteran and you're aware of it, most of you will thank that veteran for his service, and that is special. But if you really want to show your appreciation, take it one step further and ask him what branch he was in, where he served, and how important his service was. Because he will have a story to tell. And that is so important. Because if you don't ask and you don't hear so many of those stories that these men, all of us, have experienced, will die with them. I am reminded of a good friend of mine who fought at Mateo, and he survived. There were 1,000 Marines killed on that beach. He later fought at Bougainville, was severely wounded there. Nobody will ever know that because he's dead now. But I tell it to you so it's not forgotten. I had a friend of mine who fought at Okinawa. He was standing on the edge of a ledge, and Murphy had another Marine standing on his shoulders, trying to kill a Japanese above them that was trying to kill them. A mortar landed beside him and killed the man who was standing on his shoulders and blew him away. Later that week in the battle for Okinawa, he was carrying a fellow Marine across the field, and the Japanese shot him off his back. That story won't be retold because Murphy is dead. I have another friend of mine who fought at Guadalcanal. He received the Silver Star there. He is dead. If I don't tell his story, nobody will. His son, who is a friend of mine, retired as a full-bird colonel from the United States Marine Corps. He received the Medal of Honor while fighting at Chulai in 1965. The same time I was in Vietnam, north of him. His story is written because anyone who receives the Medal of Honor, there's a complete book written on it. My brother was killed in Vietnam, saving another man's life. I assure you, when you lose someone who is close to you, that close, your guts collapse over. The horror of it never leaves you. The grief never leaves you. And don't think about closure, because you can't get closure. When you lose a friend in war, when you lose a brother in arms, or when you lose a family member, there really is never closure. All of these men have stories to tell. All of them have served. All of them are part of the great cadre of men and women who have served this country and given you the opportunity to sit here and enjoy the great freedoms of this way. I have a friend of mine who served at the Chosen Reservoir. At the time I got out of the Marines, he had retired. Before that, he was a sergeant major. He said that was the coldest he'd ever been in his life. And the commander of that unit, when asked what it was like to retreat from the reservoir, retreat hell, merely advancing in another direction, because they were completely surrounded. I have friends who have fought and died in Vietnam. I have friends who have fought and died in World War II. I have one friend who landed on the beach of Normandy. I have another friend who drove a landing ground. Both are dead. I have another friend who fought in Iwo Jima. He was a sniper. He laid his rifle up on the edge of a parapet where a cannon shell had blown up a hole in the ground. He laid his rifle up there so that it would maintain a uniform temperature, so that when he began his work again, running and taking a nap, the sun's heat on it would have kept it uniform so that his scope wouldn't cloud up. As he reached over to grab that and just lifted his head up slightly, a mortar went off right beside his face. I'm telling the story because he died about 6 weeks ago. He was my friend. What you can do for us as veterans is when you meet a veteran who has served his country and has served you so well, and you say thank you for your service, sir. Take the time to ask him or her, where did you serve? What did you do? Do you feel it was worth it? Because if you don't ask that, there's not going to be anyone around to tell his tale 50 years later. Always ask them. It may hurt them, but they will thank you. And I thank you for your attention. Now my good friend Charlie Costello is going to address you for a few minutes and tell you what we can do for you. And thank you so much for your ears.
This wasn't in the plan. I made a short impromptu speech over the middle school. My commander asked me to impart that information to you, so I will do the best I can to do that. I'd also like to introduce Bill Lagerman, who is a commander of our sister organization, the American Legion. And some of these fellows sitting here are American Legion members. American Legion and the VFW are sister organizations that work very closely together. We're about 6 million strong nation, and worldwide we have organizations in foreign countries, Americans who have retired in the Philippines and Europe and other places. So there are a lot of us. We spend a lot of time, effort, and money trying to lobby Congress in order to take care of veterans. Now, as my commander said, what we can do for you, our major plan, our major operation, everything we do is about making sure veterans get their due. We live in a country with a huge government, with everybody with their hand out. Everybody's pet thing, project is theirs, and they want that regardless of what others get or don't get. So we're in that fray too. We lobby Congress, we spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of dollars on lobbyists in order to get the things that you need when you become veterans. And the time will come when, as my commander said, the person to the right or left of you or you will be a veteran. There's no way around it. We've been at war for over 20 years straight. The World War II veterans, the Korean War veterans, pretty much were taken care of with the GI Bill. They came home to a very grateful country. The country gave them a GI Bill. They gave many of them. Your grandfathers were given huge amounts of money, not money, but education opportunities, homes, many businesses were built. They were appreciated and taken care of. After Vietnam started, it turned in an opposite and ugly direction. I won't go into the whole story of it, but the Vietnam veterans were treated terribly by this country. They were treated horribly. Many of them are sitting here today. Many of them never bothered to join a service organization because they weren't wanted. They weren't wanted by America. Many Vietnam veterans were one day in a rice paddy up to their belly trying to protect their lives, fighting an enemy, and 3 days later they're getting off an airplane in San Francisco in civilian clothes, and people are spitting on them, calling them baby killers, calling them murderers, calling them drug addicts. They kind of went underground. The government turned their back on them. The people turned their back on them. Our goal in the VFW and the American Legion is to make sure that does not ever happen to you or the guys and girls that are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan these days. We will not let that happen to our dying breath. It was so bad that some of them had to move to Mexico so they could get what little disability money they got. They were able to pay someone to take care of them. Wheelchairs, armless, legless, many with brain injuries. There was whole communities of them down there. The country turned their back on them. Now, what we can do for you, what we will do for you, many of you will be graduating soon. Many of you may join the military. If the world keeps going the way it is, many of you may be drafted into the military. Women and men. They're actually looking at drafting women now. So we want to be available. We want you to join our organizations if you do get in the military to make sure everybody's taken care of. And I think that's what my commander wanted me to say.
Amen.
I'd like to allow Bill Lagerman to say a few words if he would like.
Thank you, Charlie. Appreciate the comment. I like to, I don't like to always single out people, but I think Kelly Bell and Mr. Cato have done an outstanding job. I've been attending here, I think, maybe 8 years now. And this high school and the middle school and the community, it's very impressive to us and appreciative to us to have you have us here, shake our hands and say thank you and be a part of this. I want to thank you for that. I think you're very blessed with the administrative staff that you have, and you probably don't realize that now, but 10 years from now you will. You'll go back, hey, this Metcalf County high school organization was pretty special. I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for the memories you've given us and for the support you've done for our veterans in this community. Thank you.
Just before I start, I'm going to talk to you about this table that's set up over here to the left. But before I do that, there was a World War II veteran with us earlier. Did he make it here? Mr. Dixon? I'm sorry that he didn't. There's not many of them left. If you know a World War II veteran, make the opportunity. Don't just take the opportunity. Make the opportunity to sit down and talk to them.
That's a good story.
They're getting to the point in their lives where they're ready to tell you what happened for the first time in 70 years. It'll bring you to tears. I'd like to make a special tribute and a special honor. Brenda Pronto is with us here today, and she's always welcome to sit with us. Her son, who went to school here, Eric Tote, forget his life in this country. That's personal. That's close. That's one of you. For many of you may or may have not saw this table. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it and then explain it to you. Today, there are still more than 83,000 American troops missing in action. Anybody here know that? 83,000. According to the Department of Defense Prisoner of War Missing Office, this includes 73,681 from World War II, 7,947 from the Korean War, 126 during the Cold War, and 1,657 Americans are still missing from Vietnam. That's the size of Edmonton. It's amazing. They're still missing. 6 are from Iraq are still missing, and we don't even hear about those and various other conflicts around the world. The VFW and the American Legion are dedicated to ensuring that POWs and MIAs are honored and recognized, not just memorialized. It's okay to say, I'm sorry, I hated that it happened, but we need to remind ourselves of what happened. They're still missing. An important way that all of us can do that and create the remembrance is to take the initiative through these remembrances at unit meetings and public events. You'll see sometimes you'll drive by and see a black and white flag, POW-MIA flag. Does anybody really know why that's there? We put those up so that people will remember. The symbols on this table, those who have served and those currently serving the uniformed services of the United States are ever mindful that the sweetness of enduring peace has been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and internment. At this time, we'll pause to remember our prisoners of war and missing in action. Cover. Recover. We call your attention to this small table. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that our armed forces personnel are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families tonight. So we join together to humbly pay tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his or her oppressor. The table is white. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of intentions to respond to the country's call to arms. The single red rose in the vase signifies the blood that may have been shed to ensure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of our missing comrades, family, and friends who keep the faith awaiting their return. The red ribbon around the base represents the red ribbons worn on the lapels of thousands who demand with unyielding determination a proper accounting of our comrades who are not among us today. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of the bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass inverted, they cannot toast with us at this time. The chair is empty. They are not there. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to the open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return and have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. Let us always pray to the Supreme Commander, God Almighty, that all of our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember and never forget the sacrifice. May God forever watch over them, protect them and their families.
contest. I would like to have Mr. Colombo and Mr. Damrock come down here. They're going to present to our winners. And I'll say this, you can see the artwork that's out there in the hallway, and in the 8 years I've been here, it's never been better. It was so difficult for us to pick who was going to win. We actually went into the cafeteria, and the cafe ladies helped us. And it was kind of funny. We had them put little packets of salt on each one of the posters that they thought was the best. And whichever one got the most salt, that's the one that we ended up going with being the winner. And that was interesting to me. Mr. Damrock up here for the essay contest winners.
For the essay contest winners, there are 3 essays that were chosen to be outstanding for reasoning and for word choice and for the topic of why we honor the flag. Third place, if you would come forward and receive your award, Ms. Kara Shack. Second place, Mr. Jeremiah Lee. And the winner of the essay contest with truly an amazing story is Sean Edwards.
And now Ms. Colombo will for the art.
Okay, so our classes 1 through 4 had the same theme, why we honor the flag. Please take an opportunity to go see all these. These guys did an amazing job. Third place is Hunter Reese. Second place, Alice Baker. And first place, Kristen Johnson.
An added note, the VFW, for the first time this year, they are going to match, I guess, do more than match. They're going to present each of the winners with a $100 check from the VFW as well. So, that's a pretty nice highlight. Could my 3 students that are going to be assisting me today come down here now, please? We changed the order. I know you guys couldn't get the cue because we moved it.
Hello, my name is John Hammer. I will be reading the names of MCHS veterans that are on the World War I Memorial. Edward Breeden, Linus Bragg, Milton Thomas Hodges, Virgie James, Eugene S. Jones, James H. Kincard, Frank Henry Royce, Chris Whitty.
Hi, my name is Christina Massapill, and I will be reading the names of the MCHS veterans that are on the World War II Memorial. Jack Cassidy, Ben Coleman, Robert England, Wiley Estes, Cecil Farrell, Otis Fields, Kelly Garman, James Hobart, Arnold Hurt, Kenneth Dent, Billy Frank Linden, Russell Leftwich, Albert Richardson, Weldon Scott, Howard Sira, Lowell Erman, David Whitney. Hi, my name is Clary Gwynn, and I'll be reading the names of the MCHS veterans that are on the Vietnam and Iraq Memorial. From Vietnam, there are Richard Donald Blossom, Billy Wayne Smith, Larry Rutherford, and from Iraq, treasurer.
Please stand for the flag and staff. Please be seated. Before we close, we're going to have, the band is going to play a special song at the end, but right now, we're going to have closing remarks here in a minute just by Ms. Bell. But I just wanted to say, you know, every time we do a ceremony like this, you guys just overly impress me. You sit there, you're quiet, I know, you've been sitting there 45, 50 minutes, you're uncomfortable, but you're very courteous, you're very polite, and it is just fantastic. You know, it's one of the many, many reasons we brag about you, and many of us come here, because we have the opportunity to work with young men and women like you. And trust me, not going to other places and not seeing other places, you have no idea what some of these schools are like. And you guys just always just keep the bar held high to what we demand of our young men and women. And I'm just proud to be associated with you, I really am. If I could now, Ms. Bell, for closing remarks.
I want to thank you for all of your attendance today. We especially want to thank our veterans, our moms. When you have a baby, for some reason your tear glands start. They have given their best friends. They have been with them when they left this earth. You know, when the commander told you to look to your left and right, when they were on the U-boats, getting ready to storm the beaches of Normandy, they tried to sit by their best friends who they knew would they wanted to protect. I think of my Uncle James, because he was one of the ones, and he was sitting by his friends who both were killed as they stormed the beach. Each side of him. One, he floated in the water as far as he could, because he knew that's what his friend was wanting to do, is to use his body for cover. The last time I saw my sweet Eric Toad here at school in 2002, he was sitting right there. He was sitting right there, and he always had a smile on his face. We're so honored to have Ricky Brooks here with us today, who was that friend with him when he left this world. We're so honored to have these men and these women who have fought for our freedom. And lots of times we look at the flag, and I love red, white, blue colors. I wish we had Allen County's colors, red, white, blue. I've always said that. But think red, white, blue. Those people gave their lives for everything you get to enjoy. To get to go to school, ladies, you get to go to school. In many countries, it's illegal, and you will be killed publicly trying to get an education. You have the freedom that you can get on Facebook and pretty much say any ridiculous, crazy remark, and someone won't come in the middle of the night and take you out to the woods and kill you, or take you to prison for the rest of your life. They died for that right. They died for the right for National Football League players to make incredible salaries playing football. They died for the right for you to stand or sit when there's a pledge. My legs won't let me do anything but stand. They died for that right. A dear friend gave us books that I'm going to give to Mr. Bunch that is the true documentary of Hacksaw Ridge. You should see the movie Hacksaw Ridge and then watch the documentary and read the book, because it really happened that way. Probably more horrifying if you were there. I like the last scene in Tom Hanks in Private Ryan, when he's looking at Private Ryan and Tom Hanks just gave his life and many others in his battalion to save this young man's life. What did he look at him and say? What did Tom Hanks look at Private Ryan and say? Live to deserve it. And that's the best words I think it's ever said in a movie, was by Tom Hanks. As that character was dying to this young man, live to deserve what they have given. We have a mother who gave her child. We have men and women who gave their times and their lives and their families to fight for your freedom. So live to deserve it. We thank you so deeply for what you've done for us. I want to thank our elected officials and friends who came today to be with us. You know how much that means when they come and support our school and our community. And Dr. Law, thank you. Thank you for the support you give each and every one of these students. Now at this time, I'll turn it over to Mr. Fenwick and our incredible band.